Welcome to a new Smart Money video, and in today's video we're going to look at the 80-20 principle, or the Pareto Principle. The principle states that 80% of the result comes from 20% of the effort. Now, that is just a general principle, and it's not always that case. Sometimes it is things like 25% of people own 80% of the land, or 30% of your customers provide 80% of the revenue. So it's not that it's an absolute 80-20, but the general idea is that there is often a concentrated, small amount of effort or focus or people that produce the greatest result in your life or in business. And this is what the 80-20 principle or the 80-20 rule is about. Today, we're going to look at the rule, but not just the rule, we're going to look at how to apply the rule, because this is where people go wrong. They know the 80-20 rule, and they can see in their life the things which have the greatest effect, but they don't understand how to apply the rule so as to cause the outcome to increase, so as to cause the result, the benefit of the rule to take place. We are going to look at 3 different examples, and hopefully from these examples it'll show you how to apply it in different circumstances so you too can become a master of this rule. If you like getting videos on business and personal growth, please do consider subscribing to the channel. And if you can hit that like button, it will really help the channel out. And so from this position of the 80-20 rule, meaning some tasks, some activities make the greatest impact, we start to evaluate different areas of our life, looking at and saying, what impact is taking place from this activity? What impact is coming out of it? If it is something which requires a large amount of energy in your life, but it has a very small effect, well, that is the opposite of the 80-20 rule. In other words, that's something that requires 80% of effort to get 20% result. Those you need to watch out for, because ultimately things like that, unless it's simply for pleasure, enjoyment, or an expression of love, you should really remove from life, because they add very little value. In business, those sorts of things really shouldn't happen at all, ever. Let's look at the first example, and this is going to be around your goals and what you've set up as goals for your life. If you look through your list of goals, you will see certain goals which are really important for your vision and the mission that you are trying to achieve in life. However, some goals you might see, and actually they're not as important. Now, here is the critical thing. Applying the 80-20 rule or the 80-20 principle is not just about identifying what has the most impact, the goals which are going to get you closest to your mission and your vision that you have in life, but rather it is actually about then creating action around it and saying, all right, goal number 1 and 2 get me closest to my mission. So what is the most important? What is the most effective thing I can do? Goal 1 and 2. Right. The rest of my goals, 3 through 10, a whole lot of goals, actually don't move me that close to my mission. So can I remove some of them from my list? You see, the 80-20 rule is not just about identifying what is important. It is about creating space for what is important. It is about removing that which is useless or that which adds very little value, so that that which adds the most value can have the most space in your life and the biggest impact. And example number 2 is about creating a project plan. Now, when creating a project plan, we know that it's healthy and good to look at the end in mind and to say, right, what am I trying to achieve? I work backwards, I work forwards, and I'm going through the different states of project planning where I'm linking all the interdependencies together. Once that is complete, to inject the 80-20 thinking into your project planning, simply look over all the different steps and ask yourself this one question: which steps are absolutely critical, that if they are not executed with the highest quality and standard, this project is going to suffer. If they're not on time, this project is going to suffer. You should find a handful of them. Again, applying the 80-20 rule, if you had 100 different steps, you should find 20. If you had 10 different steps, you should find 2 or 3, maybe 4. Again, it's just a guideline. But what you do is you ring fence those particular tasks. You want to ensure you set up a plan to protect the resources, the timing, the energy, the efforts of the people required to achieve them, so that the absolute highest quality and on-time execution can take place. You protect those tasks. You set them up as significant activities. And everything else then needs to shuffle and move around them. And so you see, the 80-20 principle is not just about identifying what is required. It is about creating a plan of action so as to protect what is required. And on to the last example, your household budget, something personal. If you look over your budget, you will notice that there are certain things in your budget which cost the most amount of money, usually rent or your mortgage payment or your car payment. These are significant expenses. Now, if you take those off the table and you look at the rest of your budget, you will now start to see how you spend the rest of your money. What I would say the 80-20 rule being applied to your budget looks like is in 2 ways. Number 1, what are the absolute amounts? Work out your budget, make sure you got all the figures, and just simply sort it, removing rent and your car payments, because there's very little you can do about that. Now, rank each item on satisfaction and simply compare the things you spend the most money on. They have the biggest impact on your budget, the biggest impact on how much money you can save, and compare the amount of satisfaction you've rated them to give your life. You'll now be able to see where there's a misalignment. If you have a rather large item that is causing a 80-20 effect in reverse on your budget, in other words, it costs 80% of your money or a larger portion of your money for a little bit of satisfaction, that item you should consider removing, because quite simply it adds very little value to your life. Why spend the money? Just throw it away, get rid of it. Well, I hope that you have enjoyed today's video. I hope you found it useful and informative. And if you have, please remember to hit that like button. And also consider sharing this video, because together we can create an abundance.